Disgruntled Liberal MPs call for secret ballot. Bloc leaders to push for early election. But Jughead ain't gonna play their game. This is the Great White North Report.
I'm in love with the system. Never going home. I'm in love.
Welcome back to the channel. This is a video I wanted to cover all week, and I've actually made 3 or 4 videos, but never satisfied with the final result. Try again. See if we get it. So we know that there were 24 Liberal MPs who signed an open letter calling for Trudeau to resign. Why? Because they can see the writing on their wall. Their constituents have been calling in, emailing them, talking to them on the street, asking them to get Trudeau out. Trudeau must go. These Liberal MPs know that if Trudeau doesn't go before the next election, they are out of a job. So what happened was the Liberal caucus went into a meeting with Trudeau, and they came out all unified, saying we fully support Justin Trudeau going into the next election. Obviously, they haven't seen the polls. I used 338 Canada Federal Projections. Seems to be the most accurate thing. And the Liberals are in for a shit kicking. The Conservatives are up by 217 seats projected. Liberals at 59, the Bloc at 44, the NDP at 21, and the Greens at 2. Which means the Conservatives will form a majority government. The Liberals are looking at a huge collapse. Not quite as bad as when Kim Campbell ran after Mulroney stepped down, but pretty damn close. These Liberals who want Trudeau to step down and see the writing on the wall, they're out of a job. So now these MPs are saying that there'll be some unspecified consequences, are now trying to push a special secret ballot caucus vote on Trudeau's future. And if Trudeau won't go willingly in the face of this caucus revolt, they will want to try to force him out of the job another way, simply by becoming independent. Step away from the Liberal Party, become independent. That way they can vote wherever they want. And that'll make the Liberal government even more tottering on the precipice than it already is. So there are a number of MPs and quite a number of Liberals and Canadians who feel someone else should lead the Liberal Party into the next election. Who do you have? That's my big question. Because in the past I have voted Liberal, but I've also voted Conservative. Depending what I see. When the Liberals go too far to the left, I switch back to the Conservatives. If Conservatives go too far to the right, I switch back to whoever's the central-most party. I never vote NDP. And I sure as hell don't vote Bloc or Green. So who do they have, the Liberals? Well, Chrystia Freeland was being groomed as the next Prime Minister or the next leader of the Liberal Party. Her credibility has been shot thanks to her terrible economic policies. And her squeaky voice just rubs people the wrong way. She is not the one to lead the Liberals. My bet would be, right now, would be Mélanie Joly. She seems to have a head on her shoulders, and it's not a bad-looking head. I think she would probably be the preferred choice, but I don't know any other guy on the Liberal Party who could do it. So Liberal MP Yvonne Baker said there should be a secret ballot so MPs can vote without fear of repercussions or consequences. Because if you go against Trudeau in the caucus, or you are a caucus cabinet member, you could lose your job within the Liberal Party and just become one of the backbenchers who told to shut up and vote a special way. Liberal MP Zamir Zubari agrees with the call for a secret ballot. And would put this to a rest. We need to have some finality on this. I think that would help us as a party move beyond this. So obviously there's division in the ranks, and it's not going to bode well going into another election cycle. Another Liberal MP, Wayne Long, who's been very vocal about Trudeau's future, says secret ballot would absolutely once and for all solve it and put it to bed. If everybody thinks they have a major caucus support, then let's solve it. Let's go to a secret ballot and see what happens. Long insists Trudeau must go and has warned that if he doesn't, the party risks an ugly election result at the next vote. And obviously he's looked at the polls too. Trudeau is hanging on to power. Why? I don't understand it. So Long said we don't step in and make a solid change here, we're going to allow Poilievre to govern for the next 1, 2, 3 terms. That would be disastrous for our country. No, it wouldn't. It would shift us from the left back to the right. More responsible government. If there's one thing the Liberals are not, it's responsible. So Trudeau cries after the revolt, and after he came out, he thinks about how angry messages affect his family, because you see the F Trudeau signs everywhere. Spoken about his job, his party, and immigration on the podcast. Well, he's doing a piss poor job, because everything's gone to shit since 2015. His carbon tax has made the price of fuel and food go up. as well as the cost of housing. His immigration policy has also exacerbated the housing and food problems. As far as I can see, Trudeau's immigration policy has destroyed Canadian nationalism. When you bring in that many people over a short period of time, they're not Canadian when they get here. It takes generations before they get that out of their system. And it's fundamentally changing how we act as Canadians. Like I've said before, we cannot fight World War I and II the same way today as we did back then. Look at how it is. Hell, Israel gets attacked and then they attack those who attack them, and look what happens. We get a bunch of pro-Hamas protesters in our streets over a group that attacked Israel and took hostages and then scurried back to their tunnels and let their people suffer. What a waste. UNRWA, we should defund that. Trudeau, under pressure from diplomatic community and the pro-Hamas crowd, reinstated funding to UNRWA. With our taxpayer money, UNRWA gets, and guess where it went? It went into some underground tunnels and a bunch of rockets, a bunch of weapons. So he thinks, what will it have on his children? Well, think about it. Didn't hurt him any. There was a time where Petro-Canada, stand for Pierre Elliott Trudeau, ripped off Canada. Trudeau had a mixed legacy, Pierre did. I like his handling of the FLQ crisis. Showed a lot of balls calling out the army. That was a legitimate problem because the FLQ were terrorists. Trudeau calls Justin calls the Emergency Act on a bunch of truckers who are blockading the capital, asking for change to certain policies. A very Canadian thing. He crushes it with the Emergencies Act. We have pro-Hamas protesters all over our major cities and on our campuses. He does nothing. Pierre Trudeau opened the doors to immigration to allow anyone in and in order to destroy English and French nationalism. He destroyed English nationalism, but not so much French nationalism. We still have the Parti Quebecois and the Bloc Quebecois. So he's worried about his daughter and his two sons living with his name and how they have the F flag out there. Well, think about it. His kids go to private schools. They don't have to go to a public school. They're in nice, cushy, comfortable private schools, well protected, well fed. Don't have to worry about a thing. Justin was the same way. He went to private schools. He wasn't with the rest of us. He had the golden spoon shoved so far up his ass it ain't funny. They go on very nice vacations to places where no one knows who the hell they are. Where Canadians can't go. We get dinged if we go anywhere. I go on vacation because my company has a shutdown in the summer. I left the country for 3 days to go somewhere, and I got dinged unemployment. My unemployment won't pay for those 3 days I was out of the country. I don't know why. If you lie about it and they catch you, then that's even worse. Trudeau can go out of the country on vacation and still get paid. And our taxpayers pay for the flights half the time. Trudeau has a trust fund. It's probably based in the Bahamas, so he doesn't have to pay taxes. Doesn't have to pay any capital gains tax like most people. His kids will be taken care of. And when Trudeau does eventually step down as Liberal leader or gets cremated in the next election, what's going to happen to him? Nothing. He's going to get his pension. He's going to get his pension because he's been there long enough. He's going to be on the board of some company, probably, get paid to do nothing. He's going to become a consultant, a political consultant. People will ask him and he'll do some consulting stuff, so he'll get money for that. He'll get paid for appearances around the talking appearances around the country. He'll write a book. He's set for life. His kids will be set for life. They don't have to worry. They don't have to go into politics. Hell, his daughter will get married and change her last name. Take her husband's last name. Who cares? So I don't know why he's trying to play this sympathy card. If it really affected his family that badly, he could always step down because he's not doing the country any good. So while he's crying about that, the Bloc Quebecois is going to push for an early election after government doesn't pass pension hike bill. So the Bloc Quebecois set an October 29th deadline to pass two private member bills. One was the pension hike bill for people from 64 to 75 to get paid a little more on their pension. Unfortunately, that will cost us a lot of money, taxpayer-wise, which will also cause more inflation, because the government doesn't have the money and will have to either raise taxes or print more money, which is never good. That's why we're in the mess we are today. The other one is they want to protect from any future trade agreements, mainly NAFTA, the poultry, eggs, and milk, so dairy industry, from any future trade negotiations, because the United States would love to dump a lot of dairy on Canada. So I understand that helps everyone in Canada, especially Quebec, though. Now the problem with these two bills is they're already in the Senate. The Senate goes through every bill as it comes. It goes in order by number, and they have committees that study the issue. The Senate has to do something, you know. The committee then makes notes or jots some recommendations and notes on it. It then goes back to the House of Commons for a third reading, and then everyone votes on it. It does take time. It's a process. The Bloc tried to force the Liberals and the Senate to pass it quickly, and it doesn't work like that in the Senate. Blanchet should know that and should have been more reasonable in his demand for a deadline, and it might have gone through. But it didn't, and the bills aren't law yet, so he's going to go with his alternative plan, trying to topple this minority government. Problem is, the Bloc and the Conservatives aren't strong enough to do it themselves. And even if they got the Greens on board or any independents, it still wouldn't be enough. What they need are the NDP. And Jughead is not going to play their game. He ain't playing the game. Jughead, who famously ripped up his supply and confidence agreement with the Liberals that he had for 2 years, he ripped it up last September in a political stunt, and he's not going to topple the government. Poilievre called his bluff and tried to get him to topple the government. He wouldn't do it. So now Jughead's back in the spotlight where he loves to be. This guy has done nothing really. He's a fourth-rate player, but because he's got just enough votes to keep the minority government in power, he gets to be important. Hell, the Bloc are more important than him right now. But Jughead can see the electoral map as projections as well as anyone else. And his party is sitting at 24 seats right now. It'll slide to 21 and it'll become more irrelevant. And Jughead does not like Poilievre. He calls him King Cut and he won't help him. Well, Poilievre will, according to this, Poilievre is on track to become the next king. So Singh wants to get his pension and probably will not call a vote until next spring. Also, the NDP, even though they say they're in great shape for the next election, they're actually bankrupt. They're in need of money. They need donors. When you only have 21 seats, you're not getting a lot of donors. He says he's not going to make an election happen unless he feels it'll help Canadians. You know, most Canadians are... That's a lie, because most Canadians are asking for a new election. They want to get rid of Trudeau. He's keeping them in power. He's too tied to the Liberals. He's one of the reasons why we have inflation. Overspending has caused inflation. And there have been quite a few scandals that have rocked the Liberals, and he still supports them. He will be seen, and if I was Poilievre, I would hammer Jughead on it, how much he supported the Liberals over the past 2 years. So you know Jughead's not going to do it. Not until the spring. I personally don't want a Christmas election. I would rather see a spring election. My biggest concern right now is with the Conservatives well on the front, and Poilievre is on such a high. I hope he doesn't peak too soon. I hope he doesn't reach that peak and then start sliding, because that'll hurt the chances of the Conservatives to get a majority government. You know, people, if you yip too much, people can get tired of your voice. Just like Trudeau, we're tired of listening to this guy. We're tired of listening to Jughead. Poilievre is hammering the Liberals and the NDP hard as he can. But there comes a time where you got to calm down a little, or you're going to hit that peak and people are going to stop listening to you. So I worry about that. So if the election were called today, we're looking at a Conservative majority. A lot can happen within a year. And hopefully we don't have to wait till next fall to have our election. Or June, whenever it is. I'm predicting a spring election. Hey, Canadians out there, let me know what you guys think. Do you think Jughead will help pull down the government this year? Or will he wait till spring? Will we have a spring election? Or when do you think the next election will be? And who do you think will replace Trudeau? Chrystia Freeland, Melanie Jolie, or somebody I don't know? Comments in the comment section. Hit the like button. Subscribe if you're new to the channel. Until next time, this has been the Great White North Report.
I'm in love with the system. Never going home.